Hi, I'm Gavin. So today I'm going to do a video, it's quite interesting, about this. Okay, many of you will know what that thing is behind me. That's a Macpro, it's a 5.1. Now these things are probably the finest moment of Apple design. I mean, the phone's great, but that computer has literally, I believe it came out mid-2010. It's now 14 years later and it's still going. They're amazing computers. I mean, we had the trash cans that came afterwards. They were okay. I've never really warmed to those. And then we moved into the, we moved into the M1s and the Ms. But there's still a lot of these sitting around, and there's an amazing community online of people who support these machines. And you've got OCLP, you've got all different ways to bring the latest operating systems to them and keep them going, because they are just great machines. Because the big thing is they're expandable. You can put slots in them, you can put things in them. As you've noticed, Apple has gone more towards the closed guard. You can't put things in things anymore. I mean, most of the laptops, I think all the laptops now, you can't change the RAM, everything's soldered in. I mean, they consumerized even creator type computers. The PC world's still very, huge, because you can stick cards in, you can change things. And, an investment in a PC, strangely, may sound like a better long-term investment if you get the right chip at the beginning and you can keep upgrading, But with these 5.1s, they sort of like decided, when they switched them off and went to the trash cans, over time they expire. But as I said, there's an amazing community of people out there that have kept these going. And allowed, I think you can get the latest OS running on that thing if you try. However, we do have some limitations with it. Basically what happened was we had NVIDIA card support to a certain point, then that was dropped as Apple did something and went AMD. And then there's AMD support to a point because they brought out another version of the cheese grater, as it's called, which was monstrously expensive. It's quite powerful, but it's just crazy expensive. It does have cards, but it's all a bit, it was out the reaches of all of us in post-production. It was just not something people wanted to invest in, and we had tons of these on around. So over the years, as I said, really good community. People have been doing things to work out how to do certain things, and add more to it. Now, one of the big things now that's happening is graphics cards. Graphics cards are a really big deal. Basically, your encoders are built into them. They have the H.265, H.264, AV1 encoders built directly into the graphics cards. And even things like red material, you have the debaya, and the decompression is actually leveraged off the card itself. So the problem was with the 851s, they've got great CPUs for the time being and a smaller bandwidth. I think it's PCI-3 and all this, but we just couldn't put more powerful graphics cards in them, because basically the demand of the graphics cards, TDP, its power supply, got bigger and bigger and bigger. There was some mods. There's a mod, pixel mod, you can do to increase the amount of power that goes to the cards. But I think that would sort of put a lot of people off. Obviously, rewiring a Mac's rewiring the power supply is quite a step if you need to do it. But the future's moved on. And now the cards are beginning to have much, much lower TDPs that can run off the actual what's there. You don't need to wire anything. I was running an RX 580 in this for ages, and that has a TDP of about 180, I think, 180, and it's run fine. No extra power. It does thing, but it's like, that's a very old card. So I was always interested. I mean, this is, as I said, that's the main stumbling block of getting it forward. I mean, of using the encoders built into the CPU is not as useful at this point. So there must be a way forward. Now, I've seen you can do 660, 600 XT AMD cards and things like that, but still, that's not quite enough. They're not quite the same as NVIDIA. They don't have the power of the NVIDIA cards to do certain things. But the thing is, because the driver support was dropped for the NVIDIA cards, what do you do? Now, this is where our roads diverge. Obviously, we move forward. I've got like a Mac 3 Max or something. I've got some Mac Minis and things like that take care of my Apple world. So what I decided to do, and it's taken a while, but I got there, is get a brand new super duper NVIDIA RXT4060 running in that. And behind you, you can see it is. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to take you through how to get an RTX4060 running in one of these machines. Obviously, you have to leave Mac behind. It's running in Windows. So you sort of detach yourself from that, because a lot of us have now got these lying around, but we also have all our other Mac machines. But this does still serve a purpose, even with the RTX card in it. I mean, and I'll explain this. I mean, my son wanted a computer to play games on, so I beefed up the up51. He plays games great. Now it's got a 460 in it, an RTX 460, so it's like pretty good for games. There's also something that has now that the Mac over here doesn't have, and that's AV1 encoding. It's interesting, even on the Mac 4th generation, there is no AV1 encoding. There's decoding, but no encoding. Now, if anybody knows what AV1 is, it's a really, really good bandwidth. It's being used by YouTube. It's a great low bandwidth, high quality codec to enable you to deliver videos. So what I've had to do with my YouTube videos, I encode in a thing called shutter encoder in AV1, but it's not hardware, so it takes forever on my Mac, my MacBook 3 over here, M3. But I've just been playing with it on this. I can now, I've got DaVinci Resolve installed. I can now encode my videos straight out in AV1, straight out of this on the Mac 5.1. And then they're nice and small, and then you can upload them. Also, obviously, this has got built-in H.265 and H.264 encoders. So, it's not brilliant. It's nowhere near as fast as the M3. But the card that went in here is 250 quid. I don't know. I mean, I'll go through what's in it. But it's 250 quid. I mean, that thing's £2,500, and it's like twice as fast. So you can pick one of these up for 200 or 300 quid. You can get some RAM really cheaply. You can get the card really cheaply. And, if you've got one, I think the best thing is if you've got one of these already, you can switch it to Windows and basically put this card in it. You've got a great encoding machine. You've got a content creation machine if you want to use it. And yeah, so it sort of lives on, but now it's Windows 11. So there's a half thing. If you want to leave that, the Mac world behind and switch over and get a powerful video card in here. I mean, I've not tested it with any other ones like the TIs, but this is a base RTX 460. Then watch the video. If you're set on using, Mac OS, then not for you. However, that still boots into Mojave even with an RTX 460 unit. I'll show you that, because obviously they had native drivers in the earlier versions of OS X to allow you to use a video card. There's no acceleration on it, but it works. So yeah, so what we'll do is I'll just show it to you. I'll talk you through it. Basically, what I did to get it to this state, and you can take it from there. Okay, so I'll just talk you through the machine. Right, obviously everybody knows about Macs. You've got the CPU tray here down at the bottom. So here we are. We've got an MSI. I'll show you the box in a minute. MSI GeForce RTX 460. Now, because I had an RX 580 to start off with, I've got the dual power supplies coming off into the 8-pin. So that's an 8-pin in there that plugs in. So if you've got an RTX 580 at the moment, that'll work. But at the top there, I've got, I think it's a Wolf Pulse card. It basically, you can put an NVMe inside it, mount it, and it runs off the slot. And then at the top, I've got a USB-C, USB 3 card. At the top, I've got 3 drives. I think they're all 2 terabytes and an SSD here. These are all pulled together for Windows into a RAID that gives it 600 megs per second. And then there's an SSD here. That's got Mojave on it, and this one here is the boot drive with Windows 11. So hopefully this will go into shot. This is, I'll put a link to this in the description so you can see what it is. This is the card that works. These are the cheapest. This is the cheapest 460 I can find at the moment, to tell you the truth. They're on Amazon. They're on Black Friday at the moment. And yeah, so it's the Ventus Black 2x-X. And you can see it just sits in normally in here. And that's it. I've come out the back on the first display port, straight into the monitor over here. And there we are. There we are. We've got Resolve that's up and running. And yeah, so it works great. I downloaded the creator, what are they called? The creator drivers for it. But it boots normally. It's totally fine. Everything works fast. I'm going to run the Firmware for you. There's a Firmware on here. Don't save. And let's run Firmware. It's in my downloads. I don't have screen recording on this, unfortunately. Downloads, Firmware. Where is that? Have I set that up already? Firmware. Let's get that up. Somebody who knows more about speeds than me. Let's run the 440 benchmark. knows more about speeds than me can have a look at this and see what we've got going on here. So that's saying that's 1440, and that's running at 84 frames per second. GPU temperature 62, GPU hotspot 74, CPU usage 97%. So I don't know if that's any good. That's 1440, 83 frames a second, 82 frames a second. So there you go. So that's it running there. Get rid of that. Let's try, it comes back up. Let's try 4K benchmark. So that does. 4K benchmark is running at 38 frames a second. There you go, 38 frames per second. And then, I don't know what that would stand for, 1080p. Obviously that should be pretty zippy because it's a 1080p 124 frames per second. Okay, so to get the Mac to work with an RTX 460, there's a couple of steps. Now the big problem was, and I've seen this on other forums, they're saying that there was some kind of firmware or something in the cards that precludes them from booting. This was mainly referring, I think, to when people were using OLCP, because some of the cards like the RTX 580, if it's not been flashed, or a lot of the flash cards, you don't see a boot screen. You get this black screen, and it was such a pain. I used to have an RTX 580 that was flashed by Mac video cards. They gave me that. I sold that because I sort of moved away from this, but this thing's followed me around for years. But then I put the RTX 580 in there, installed Mojave, put Windows on it, and I started to use it. But obviously there's this issue. Every time you have a problem, you've got to sort of be really careful how you do it. You've got to go to Windows. You don't get the boot screen. You get the big black screen, unless you flash the card. And then some utter genius worked out how to embed it into the firmware. So in the link below, there's a link to a video that shows you how to do an inject into your firmware. Now, I'm going to warn you that this is potentially risky. I literally was a bit concerned because you can brick the entire machine. But the steps are there. I'll put the link in. It's brilliant. You download DOSDO, DXE injection, this kind of thing. And basically, because you're putting this into the firmware, when you reboot, you now get, it used to be a patch on the front on OCPL. So you'd have to have it sort of like come afterwards, after the firmware boot, you'd get it, and then you could get your boot screen. But now because it's inside the firmware, you get the boot screen. You get the boot screen on any card that works on this. So I thought, okay, now I've got this, but I'm reading the RTX cards don't work, and there's a couple of posts on, I think, Mac Forums, Mac Rumors, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. Then there's one thread where some guy has managed to get a 350 running. So I thought, okay, well, you know, these cards are 250, I thought, worth a pump. So I bought it, put it in, and it fires up straight away. It literally, totally normal. The TDP of this card is 115 watts. So it's actually 50 watts lower than my RX 580. So it's even better. It's a quantum leap forward in performance over an RTX 580 or probably even a 660. It's, you know, it's got like I'll do some benchmarks on it, but in comparison to the Mac M3, it's really, it's quite astonishing for what I've got. I mean, this machine's like 14 years old, and it's giving me, I mean, coding times for certain jobs. And I mean, obviously this can't do AV1, that can. It's giving me encoding jobs, you know, about twice as slow, about 2/3 as slow. It's not super fast, but it's like compared to something that I was doing on a, I don't know, even on a trash can, it's way quicker because the encoders are built into the RTX. The RTX 460 is the first one to have AV1, H.264 and H.265, and that's really important. So if you use them and you have one of these lying around, it's potentially a good thing. Anyway, all I can say is these things are amazing computers, and the community behind supporting these are an amazing bunch of people. I mean, they've managed to put Thunderbolt cards in them. They've managed to do everything to keep these things going. And hopefully just doing this video shows you that even when you're at the end of your tether with it and you think you're going to get rid of it, keep onto it. Because I'm sure when this planet ends and the sun switches off and some alien life force comes and lands and they find one of those lying around, they'll go, well, they actually knew how to design things properly once, didn't they? Because it's a fundamentally brilliant computer. And Apple have never, ever come anywhere near building anything as good as that. It's just a great thing. So if you want to squeeze your last bit of life out of your 5.1, don't ditch it. you can get an RTX 460. Have a look at the TDPs, you might even be able to get. If you've got the pixel mod, you can even put a more powerful one in there. They work. Anyway, just to show you one more time, the card that absolutely works, this one, is the GeForce RTX 460 Ventus 2x black. I've got this thing, you can see it here. It works. And so, yeah, so I hope that's useful to somebody. And all the rest of you in the Mac community, amazing. Well done. I mean, look, 14 years old. 14 years old and I'm playing Metro Redux on it at like top frame rate with Ultra, whatever it's called. Anyway, thank you for watching.